Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, let's talk about our main man, Jonah Carroll. Now, Jonah Carroll yesterday, he turned in an absolute masterclass performance against Scott Quigg. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I didn't pay a ton of attention to this fight during the build-up, as far as the press conferences and all that stuff. I didn't pay much attention because it wasn't a fight that really intrigued me too much. But, once I realized all the day of the fight that it was happening, I said, you know what, let me tune in. Let me go live for the fight. The undercard was hellacious. We had Anthony Fowler, fighting a nobody again. He's not going anywhere in boxing. But in the main event, the main event saved the card, because what we got was something that completely blew my mind, and that was the masterclass performance from Jonah Carroll against Scott Quigg. Now, Scott Quigg was a world title champion or a belt holder at one point in time. I never really thought Scott Quigg was a special fighter to begin with. I thought he was always a bit of overrated. Just a guy that was bigger and using his size to bully people out the weight. A weight bully who happened to run into a belt. But I never looked at Scott Quigg and saw him as a special type of a fighter. Now with Jonah Carroll, I've seen him fight a couple times, most notably against Tevin Farmer, and he gave Tevin Farmer, up until he lost the title against Jojo Diaz, he gave Tevin Farmer arguably his toughest fight of his whole entire title reign, until he lost. And it was a fight where he fought Tevin Farmer in close quarters, was landing a lot of punches to the body, but Jonah Carroll has no punching power. And when I say no punching power, I mean no punching power. I'm talking about like less punching power than Paulie Malignaggi. So, I picked him. My prediction before this fight was Jonah Carroll to win by a close decision, because I thought he could outwork Scott Quigg. I thought the volume would be able to be enough to beat Scott Quigg, but to be fair, he did do that, but that really wasn't what I was impressed with. This dude who came into this dude on the night, he boxed a shutout against Scott Quigg. I mean, he won 10 rounds straight. 10 rounds easy, clean, beautifully straight, like one rounds. And then he stops him in the 11th round, and that's probably the biggest surprise, because Jonah Carroll's a guy that's had roughly 18, 19 fights, only had about 3 knockouts. So he gets the stoppage in the 11th round. And he looked like a different fighter. Just a completely different fighter. We're talking about a guy, who on the outside he looked like the Irish Lomachenko. He looked like the freaking Irish Pernell Whitaker. He was feinting him, shoulder feints, foot feints. The subtleties of boxing were on full display with Jonah Carroll. But so you saw a lot of shoulder feints, foot feints. You saw him throwing the right hook, spinning off of it, getting back to the middle of the ring, popping him with a jab. You saw him placing the left hand to the body. You saw him placing a lot of right hooks to the body, systematically and tactically breaking Scott Quigg down. And it looks like, because after he lost Tevin Farmer, they started sparring a lot. They started doing a lot of rounds in the gym together. So it looks like the sparring with Tevin Farmer has done him some good. And he even said after the fight that he's made some tweaks to his style. He didn't really change his style per se, but he made some tweaks to it as far as his approach. So some changes that Jonah Carroll made to his style was that he wasn't really throwing punches for quantity. Even though he threw a lot of punches, he wasn't throwing punches for quantity. He was throwing punches for quality. And he's naturally a guy who has a lot of energy and stamina anyway, so he still wound up throwing a lot of punches, but they were more quality punches, picking his shots with the left hand, picking his shots with the right hook, picking his shots with the jab, feinting, sidestepping, giving him angles, going to the body, changing the eye level of Scott Quigg. And it was look, guys, I'm not saying this to blow smoke up Jonah Carroll's ass, because I'm not I like him, but I wouldn't say he's like one of my favorite fighters, anything like that. But we've had 2 of my favorite fighters already fought this year and turned in virtuoso performances in Tyson Fury and Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. But I would say this performance right here against Scott Quigg, because he was the underdog. A lot of people were picking Scott Quigg to stop Jonah Carroll and fold him up, because we never seen him box like this before. We never seen him go in there and turn in a performance like that. But I would venture to say that performance right there was just as good as Tyson Fury's performance, and it was just as good as Roman Gonzalez's performance against Kal Yafai. I put it in the same class. If it's not better than those, it's in the same class as those, because this was a guy in Jonah Carroll. Well, like I said, he was feather-fisted as can be, but aside from that, he's an excellent fighter around the board. Footwork is great, speed is great, punch placement is fantastic, good jab, good feints. I'll even go as far as to say, like, look, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but if this guy had punching power, like if Jonah Carroll had legitimate, if he had like above average punching power, this guy would be any, undoubtedly elite fighter in the at 130. But because he doesn't have the power, it always makes him a bit vulnerable to guys who do have the power. You see what I'm saying? So that's what it is. Scott Quigg, after the fight, he made a lot of, he basically hinted at retirement, and I think he said in some interviews as well, because I saw some links on YouTube that he's going to retire from boxing, and I think he should, because he just doesn't have it anymore. And at this higher weight class, he can't bully guys with his size like he was down at the lower weight class when he was world champion. So I think it's time to hang it up. I think he's achieved everything he could have possibly done in his career for a guy of his talent level and skill set. So if that was his last fight, congrats to Scott Quigg on a decent career. But I will say I was a bit pissed off about what he was saying yesterday, because he was saying, like, after he lost, he was saying, yeah, I'm old, and on my day, in my prime, this guy couldn't hang with me. Listen, bro, don't talk about yourself like you're some sort of all-time great. You were not an all-time great. You were never a pound-for-pound fighter. You were just a guy. You were just a solid domestic-level fighter who broke into the world stage, and you happened to run into a belt. But you were never an upper echelon elite fighter. And I would even venture to say the best version of you, any point of your career, pick any version of Scott Quigg you want, is not beating that Jonah Carroll last night. That Jonah Carroll we saw last night, I think could contend for world titles. I mean, I know he fought a guy in Quigg who was shot to bits, but we didn't know, we weren't saying that coming into the fight. So let's not change that energy now. He made him look like a nobody. It's like Roy Jones Jr. said in his hit song, Y'all Must Have Forgot. He said, and they got the nerve to say, I ain't fighting nobody. I just make him look like nobody. Y'all must have forgot. If you haven't heard that song, go listen to it. It's great stuff. But Jonah Carroll, pretty much, that's what it was. He fought a guy that people are saying now is nobody, but he made him look like a nobody. And he didn't lose one round. I mean, he barely lost. I'm not even lying to you guys. Go back and watch the fight. It's hard to pick 15 seconds of any round that Scott Quigg won. If you can find 15 seconds of any round that Scott Quigg won, then fair play to you, because I can't. I mean, I was live for it, and I don't really remember a 15-second span in that fight where Scott Quigg was winning. But this guy, Jonah Carroll, turned in one of the best performances we're going to see all year, and he looks like he could be one of those fighters that's getting better later on in his career. Maybe he's a late bloomer. Maybe he's the guy that came into boxing very I guess raw, or had a certain approach to the game, but ever since a loss to Tevin Farmer, he's made the adjustments. He's made the adjustments, and he's got himself the right help and the right approach. And that guy that we saw last night, I think he can give a lot of guys problems. And the good thing for him is coming into the fight, he was ranked number 8 in the IBF. So I believe his ranking will move up in the IBF. Maybe he cracks the top 15 of other sanctioning bodies. But regardless of where he's at in the sanctioning bodies, Jonah Carroll, this much is certain, Jonah Carroll is a much better fighter than he was when he fought Tevin Farmer. He's a much different fighter than when he fought Tevin Farmer. This isn't a guy that's just throwing a lot of punches, being reckless, and trying to win on the scorecards because of his activity. This is a guy that is still throwing a lot of punches, but the punches have meaning behind them. And sometimes guys like him are actually worse. It's actually sometimes worse to fight the guys like Jonah Carroll who don't really have elite punching power, because what happens is guys like that have to be good everywhere else. So he has to be good at feinting. He has to be good at, throwing his jab. He has to be good at placing his punches, because he knows he can't hurt you at one shot. So what winds up happening is, yes, he doesn't knock you out, but he can beat you up for the course of 12 rounds, and sometimes those beatings do more to your career than like a guy like even like a Deontay Wilder, or a big puncher that will get you out of there with one punch. So listen, Jonah Carroll, that guy shows up again. I want to see more of him. I want to see more of him moving forward. I want to see more of that guy against top opposition, because yesterday he really showed me something special against Scott Quigg. So congrats to Jonah Carroll, out here looking like the freaking Irish Lomachenko and the Irish Pernell Whitaker against Scott Quigg. Congrats to Scott Quigg on a decent career, on hanging up the gloves. And let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What did you make of Jonah Carroll's performance against Scott Quigg? And who do you want to see him fight next moving forward? Honestly, Tevin Farmer just lost to Jojo Diaz. Jonah Carroll's coming out a career best performance. I mean, listen, he almost beat Tevin Farmer last time without you know, when he was fighting a different style, he almost beat Tevin Farmer in the last time. So I think if that version of Jonah Kiro can show up in a Tevin Farmer rematch, I wouldn't put it past him to beat Tevin Farmer. And that's a bold prediction for 2020 if they do fight. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Dayton. So until next time, take care, guys.